Well, we have this from Tesla Goes Plaid this morning on X. He says, guys, there's a teardown company that spent hundreds of thousands of man hours trying to understand Tesla's unboxed process. And then he gives the URL. Well, of course, I went over and started watching that. I've only watched about half of it, and I will finish watching it later this morning. But these folks are on an entirely different level than Sandy Munro in terms of their methods of doing teardowns on automobiles and in terms of what they do once they've done those teardowns. However, they've come to exactly the same conclusion. Tesla is so far ahead of the industry on every aspect of auto tech and manufacturing than the rest of the industry. They're just totally in big trouble. So I'm going to put the URL in the description below if you'd like to watch that this morning. I've watched about half. They spent over 100,000 man hours actually designing and building a prototype car using the unboxed approach in order to sell the tech to other auto companies. They agree that the Tesla Gen 3 vehicle will use 30% less space. Therefore, it's going to cost 30% less in terms of building out manufacturing capacity. They agree that will have a much faster throughput and will cost about 30% less than what cars are costing them before they used the unbox process. It's absolutely phenomenal. My plan is to do a video later this morning where I will go through this, what they've said, break it down, analyze it, and give it to you in maybe a slightly shorter version or maybe a version that is more clear. So this is Randy Kirk. I am hoping that you'll hit the like button. Just take a second, hit that like button. It really helps in terms of the algorithm, and then hit subscribe. That helps even more. Now, if you're going to hit subscribe, then from time to time you need to watch the videos. Otherwise, it doesn't help. So only hit subscribe if you really like the videos, and then hit notify. A later day, of course, we'll have that video. That's my plan. It might not happen, but if it doesn't, then it'll be Brian White. I've had a video ready to go for Brian White for 3 days now, and I haven't put it up because there's been breaking things every day that have gotten in the way. And so many breaking pieces of news every single day. I'll put up some cards later in the video for some of the things yesterday and the day before that you missed or might have missed. Maybe you didn't. I mean, they were amazing news on those videos. All right. So where are we? We've got Tesla stock continuing to underperform as it has all year. And this basically comes down to 3 reasons, in my humble opinion. Number 1, expectations are extremely low for the earnings call next week. There are a lot of worries about margins and guidance for growth in 2024. Number 2, there's a relentless drumbeat of negativity about Tesla in the mainstream press and a lack of honest coverage about the Cybertruck and Optimus. And number 3, the bond yields are headed higher, which commonly means Tesla goes down. Now, there's reasons for that, and the reasons for that last one with the bond yields is because, as I've noted before, Tesla tends to act like one of the Cathie Wood's risky growth stocks, especially when it comes to the way that the bonds interact with the price of Tesla. This has been true definitely for the first 3 trading weeks of the year. When yields go up, and therefore there's interest rates are higher, that hurts growth stocks like Cathie Wood's companies because they're risky and they might need to borrow. Well, Tesla doesn't need to borrow, but the stock market doesn't seem to care about that. Number 2 is that when you've got super high PEs, it's based on very high growth in the future. And so you have that high growth if you don't have that high growth in the future, then it beats down the stock. And then third, Tesla is interest rate sensitive with regard to the automobile sales. As interest rates go up, it costs more per month to get a Tesla vehicle. And so that puts pressure on Tesla to lower their prices. So all those things are happening. They're similar to the Cathie Woods. Therefore it doesn't get treated all the time like a Mag 7, and move the same as the Nasdaq or the Mag 7. It sometimes tends to act more like a Cathy Wood. All right, we've got so last thought, the earnings call could change all of this. We could have a reversal of the normal exuberance into the call with the sell off after, but that's not even close to being investment advice, as we can never know what Elon will do in the call. I believe that his honesty and transparency in these calls is good for the stock long term, though many would disagree with my analysis of that. But there's no doubt that that very transparency can be problematic in the short term. All right, some helpful information from Sawyer Merritt this morning. These are answers to some common Cybertruck questions that he has been getting. If you've got a Cybertruck on order, you know somebody that has a Cybertruck order, these could be important. Number one, you cannot sell your reservation spot. This is against Tesla's terms, and you can risk losing your reservation completely. I don't know 100% how accurate that is, because there might be ways to do it that Tesla would never know. No, and I'm not sure that they would enforce this. But anyway, number two, you can't transfer your reservation to another Tesla account. Number three, you can't sell your Foundation Series Cybertruck for 12 months starting from the day you take delivery. There's a clause that in the contract, when you make the contract, that says you can't sell it. This is to eliminate people from flipping the trucks. All right, flipping the sale of the truck. Number four, if you get invited to design a Foundation Series Cybertruck, you don't have to do anything. You will not lose your spot in line. You can just wait for less expensive trims or for other trims, etc. Number five, he says, Sawyer is not a Tesla employee. I have no clue when you'll get your VIN, your delivery date, or when Tesla will start regularly making Cyber Beasts. And number six, after ordering and before you get your VIN, you can switch your order from a Cyber Beast to an all-wheel drive or vice versa if you want. All right, so good advice, good information for those who, like us, we have a Cybertruck on order. Maybe you do too. All right, this is from Barron's in Apple News. This is from Davos in Switzerland, where I don't know if you saw yesterday, but the super progressive billionaires in Davos got their heads handed to them by several speakers saying that they're a bunch of yo-yos. Anyway, Blackstone's CEO, Steven Schwarzman, says he's seen a lot in a half century in finance, but right now he sees something stark in his empire of portfolio companies. Inflation, he says, is already near 2%, lower than what the consumer price index shows. This is according to Schwarzman. If the Fed sticks to its current policy stance, relying on the official numbers, it could mean that interest rates stay higher for longer than they need to. He goes on to say, while markets expect 6 or 7 rate cuts from the Fed this year as inflation wanes, officials at the central bank have pushed back against this dovish view. After all, the annual gain in the CPI is still close to 3.4 in December from 3.1 in November, a discouraging move that leaves the number firmly above the Fed 2% target. Core CPI, the Fed's preferred metric, was at 3.9. Schwarzman says, I think they have wrong numbers. He told Barron's, inflation is pretty much already at the 2% level. Schwarzman will be aware of the well-worn market mantra, don't fight the Fed, but correcting the Fed on the data it is watching is another matter. If his call was coming from most people, it wouldn't warrant so much skepticism. But Schwarzman runs Blackstone, the private equity giant and the largest landlord in the U.S. He says, while the latest CPI report shows the cost of shelter mainly tracked by rents and an equivalent measure for homeowners, which rose 6.2 year over year, Schwarzman sees a completely different story. Rather, the increase in rents is currently between 0 and 1%, he told the interviewer. If true, that would have a meaningful bearing on the overall picture of inflation, since shelter makes up some 30% of how growth is measured. Does this sound like something familiar you've been hearing from another pundit? Somebody, that has a YouTube channel and is currently wearing a black shirt instead of Hawaiian prince. Anyway, Schwarzman says the numbers that the Fed are using are overstated, and the inflation numbers are off somewhere between 1.5 to 1.7 percentage points, he says. A call that inflation is lower than estimated does little to disrupt the narrative that the Fed will cut rates this year. The Blackstone CEO isn't confident that the many bets that the Fed will lower borrowing costs as soon as March will play out. Since they're using different numbers, it won't be early. It'll be later, says Schwarzman, who expects rate cuts in the second half. A lot of folks talking about June now. There seems to be a lot of coalition around June rate cuts. I'm still hoping for the March. I still think that the PCE next week, anyway, yeah. The current expectation of rate cuts by the Fed in March has dropped to 54% from 77% just a week ago. That is what is now propelling the Treasury yields up and the dollar up. That's me speaking, not Schwarzman, not Barron's. That's what's happening right now. So you see the yields going up, you see the dollar going up, and that is impacting Tesla stock. But I agree with almost everything else that Schwarzman said. We could see a huge reversal if the PCE numbers next Friday come in as expected. This will be showing Schwarzman to be correct. I believe he's correct. And then that will change the expectations on when the rate cuts will occur. The bond yields will drop and so on. And then depending on what Tesla says Wednesday, we could see a big change in the way Tesla stock is being treated if we get some decent guidance. All right. Having said all that, let's see where things are this morning. Tesla is down a little tiny bit this morning, down 30 cents. It had been down more in the pre-market, but it's been sitting around this number ever since the market opened this morning. Is trying to get into the green, but it's still down 33 cents. Okay, we've got the Dow up 19, we've got the Nasdaq up 55, S&P up 8. The Magnificent Seven are almost all up except for Amazon and Tesla, and the Cathie Woods are down. Again, some mix. PayPal continues to be up because it's got some strong, it's got some reasons to be up a bit right now. They've had a good week. All right, so we've got Tesla now down only 23 cents. I think it's, right now, it looks like it wants to go into the green. And let's look at these things in terms of percentages real quick, because some of you like to hear it in percentages. And I'm having trouble with my fingers this morning. Okay, the Dow is down up 0.07%, NASDAQ up 0.39%, S&P up 0.19%, Tesla down 0.11. Okay, now I think we're going to find that the bonds are up this morning. Let's go take a check. We have got the bonds. We have the bonds. Very sorry. We got the bonds up, yeah, almost 3 basis, the 10-year up almost 3 basis points again this morning to 4.171. I'm going to need to do, I'll do for later today when I'm talking to Larry, I'm going to come back with some kind of analysis of where I haven't really looked at the charts on this. Where do I think bonds are going to max out? Still sitting here this morning, going up this much. We've got, oh, boy, I've got fumble fingers this morning for some reason. We have got the rest of the bonds. So the 2-year is up even more. It's up 3.5 basis points. We've got the 2-month pretty much unchanged. So the shorter ones are unchanged. The longer ones are up the most, including, except for the 30-year, which continues to only be bumping up a little bit. But the 10-year has bumped up a ton over the last few days. All right, let's take a look at oil. We've got the oil prices relatively flat this morning, sitting at 74.43. That is still trending up a little bit each day. We were at like 71 at the beginning of the week, the end of last week. Brent is still about $5 difference compared to the Texas Intermediate. Natural gas down 4% this morning, continuing down. So interesting to see it going down while the oils are going up a little bit. Anyway, gold up a little this morning, 2029. That's still in the lower end of its recent range. And we've got copper up a little tiny bit this morning. The dollar is heading higher again because the bonds yields are up. That is going to make the dollar tend to be up higher, which is where it is. And then we have the Bitcoin up a little bit this morning, but sitting at the low end of its recent range around 41,000. Okay, as usual, we do jump back just for a quick minute to look at Tesla, which is now positive. It is 48 cents up, and there's definitely a strong trend in the positive way this morning for Tesla. I think it is I think it's fair to say that Tesla is grossly oversold at this point compared to any metric you want to use. I do not see some people's fear that it's going to go down into the hundreds, except if the call goes really badly next week in terms of the actual numbers that Elon gives us next week. If we look at if the margins come in under 17, if it comes in like 16 or 15% on the auto margins, if the overall margins come in at, under the last time, I think they came in at 8% or 7%, something like that. If they come in at 6% for the overall operating margin or 5% or something of that along that nature, if we get some kind of projection from Elon that we're only looking at 2.1 million cars next year, I mean, those kinds of things could cause us to go back into the hundreds. There's no doubt about it. That is not investment advice. Do your own homework. Okay. So I am going to put up two cards. I have no idea what those videos were about, only that they got massive, very, very strong results. Oh yeah, yesterday was my rant. That's what it was. I'll put the rant up again. If you didn't watch the rant, you need to watch the rant. I believe it's 100% true, and a lot of you disagreed with me, but the rant was about how Tesla is being pilloried by the press and how that is impacting the stock, and how Tesla needs to put together they need a PR department so badly. PR is not just about answering negative news. It's about setting the tone. It's about setting your own narrative. It's about making sure that the folks out there get the right headlines. That's what a PR department is for. First and foremost is creating the news, not just responding to the news. Maybe a lot of people don't understand that. Maybe Elon doesn't even understand that, but it is about setting your own narrative. I'll put that card up right here. The day before, we had a video that I did again, I'm forgetting what it's not because I'm getting old, really. This is not, I do have that terminal disease though. I haven't told you about my terminal disease. It's called AGE. Yeah. And so I do have that. So I'm not quite as sharp as I was when I was 35, but I try to, keep on top of it as much as I possibly can. All right. And so you want to buy a Cybertruck bottle opener? For sure, you want to do that. I've dropped the price, $20. Doesn't matter what level you want to get in at. $20 for one, $40 for two. However many you want to do, just multiply times that number times $20, and you will get how much money you need to send over to paypal.me/Randy Kirk. Be sure and let me know if it's camo, like that one up there, or if it's just the plain sterling stainless. And then please also add an extra $20 if you're outside the US zip code, and $30 if you're out in the Pacific rim. So way over there, in Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, etc. All right, that's it. One last check. Let's see if we're continuing to go more and more into the green. That's always fun to do here at the end. No, now Tesla has reversed and it's down 94 cents. So yeah, who knows? And by the time you're reading this or watching this or seeing this or listening to this, we could be at plus 10 or minus 10, because that's just how Tesla is. Yeah, I'm sure you know this by now. All right. It's been great talking to you.